You're about to see technology that is groundbreaking and mind-boggling. It is technology that can track the trade of child sexually explicit material and track down the predators who trade in this material. When I first heard about this, I thought, it can't be all that. But upon further investigation, it is all that and more. And it's technology that is held by a group called the Child Rescue Coalition. And we're going to talk all about it. And we're going to show you in real time how this works. And the implications for law enforcement have already been tremendous. And they're really just getting started. But you need to know about this group and you need to know about this technology. And we're going to embrace it. And I'm going to find out a way to use it in some of our future stories as well. But first, I'd like to welcome Carly Yoost and Greg Schiller of the Child Rescue Coalition. Thank you both for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
They
Chris.
flew all the way in from West Palm Beach, Florida today. And the history on both of these people is pretty incredible. Carly, you grew up around technology. Your dad, Hank Asher, passed away some years ago, had Accurant, TLO, which is used by law enforcement across the country. We use TLO during our predator investigations. Greg, you were a federal prosecutor, a state prosecutor, going after cases involving human trafficking and child predators.
That's right.
Tell me where this technology came from briefly, and then I'm going to turn it on and show people how this works.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you, Chris. And as you mentioned, my father, Hank Asher, had developed a lot of really amazing background investigative tools. And it really was, he was building tools for the first time when really the internet first got created to create a background investigative tool that law enforcement could use to search assets or vehicles, or if there was a kidnapping or a hit and run.
And some of this was in response to the 9/11 attacks, the terrorist attacks.
Yes, ultimately, some of his tools helped identify some of the 9/11 hijackers and potential terrorists. But I think what excited him the most is what he realized is that to build these technology tools and really provide the most edge tools is it really had to be technology based organizations. It wasn't going to be government entities that came up and developed these amazing tools.
You needed the people who could do it, the mechanics of this
Right,
thing,
right.
and
The
the creative
programmers,
people.
the resources, the creativeness behind it. And so it really was he was realizing what good could be provided from this technology. So being able to work with law enforcement, especially when children were being victimized. So if there was a kidnapping or a missing child or any kind of information, these tools became law enforcement's first time that they had a database that they could turn to search for. Maybe they saw a kidnapping and they knew it was a white car with a license plate that they only got two numbers out of the license
Right,
plate.
and the technology fills in the blanks.
Yes, and provided for the first time a searchable lead list for them to go after and start identifying suspects and trying to rescue missing children. And so that's, I think, out of all the crime types, you mentioned the 9/11 hijackers, some terrorist investigations, even the Beltway sniper. So many cool and wild cases that his technology really helped law enforcement so much in identifying. But what excited him the most was when it helped reunite a family, when it found a missing child. And so he developed all of the technology that he built. He donated it to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children free of charge. Always wanted them to use it for free, and became really good friends with the National Center for Missing and Exploited
Which
Children.
we have a collaboration with as well.
Yes,
Great
you've
work.
done great work with them too.
And so how did that transition into technology that can track the trade of child pornography?
Yeah. So after building those background investigative tools, he actually wanted to build one more. He had built Accurant. He had built before that database technologies. And he actually had sold that company to LexisNexis. He was on a long period of time where he said, never again, I'm going to enjoy my life. It was so hard creating and building and developing those tools. But he said, I'm going to do this one more time. I'm going to build it again. and I'm going to name it TLO, the last one. I'm going to make one last and greatest tool. And he went to work and started building technology to do it again, to build that background investigative tool to help investigators all across different industries. And it was actually when he first built that company in Boca Raton, Florida, that it was a friendship he had made with Elizabeth Smart and Ed Smart,
Sure.
particularly her Elizabeth's father, who really good friends of ours. He's a great person, great
Met him many
individual.
times, collaborated with Elizabeth. I mean, you
Yeah,
talk about a phenomenal survivor story.
oh,
It's Elizabeth Smart.
amazing, so powerful, and just complete embodies everything of strength and wisdom from that
Courage.
situation. Yes. So, there was a team of law enforcement who were out in Wyoming, actually the original creator of the original system that it fuels Child Rescue Coalition. Uh, a man named Flint Waters, who was
Mhm.
law enforcement, had discovered that individuals could look that law enforcement was able to look into peer-to-peer file sharing networks and identify IP addresses that were trading child sexual abuse material. And so what they discovered is we could start making arrests and figure out the IP addresses. And they turned on this technology, the system, to identify who's trading illegal child sexual abuse material around the world.
See, that's astounding, and I follow this technology, Greg, very closely, but until I was introduced to the 2 of you by our mutual friend Woody Telco at LexisNexis, I was unaware of this specific technology. So this, Greg, actually tracks peer-to-peer sharing of child pornography in real time.
Right, right. So, you have bad actors all over the world, in every country of the world, who are online in different networks, sharing, searching for, distributing, transmitting this horrible material. And law enforcement, people that Carly just mentioned, and now Child Rescue Coalition, has been able to figure out how to identify those individuals because they're sharing information in a publicly available space. So our technology simply recovers that publicly available information, puts it into a nice, handy dandy, user friendly dashboard, and gives it to law enforcement. But the beauty is, rather than law enforcement having to find these individuals, hey, I live in New York City. I want to find the bad guys in New York City. How do I do that? Our technology identifies which potential offenders are actually in New York City. So they don't have to go looking for them. We give them the leads.
Show me how this works. We've got a map here.
Sure.
Tell everybody what they're going to see and what they're seeing when you execute this.
Sure. So when I hit the start button, you're going to start to see little dots popping up all over the United
This is
States and the world.
worldwide.
Yes, correct. It's the entire world. And what you're seeing is a live feed of the data that our systems are capturing all over different networks, and those dots actually represent offenders online at this moment in time who are sharing child sexual abuse material. We're talking about images and videos of children in prepubescent years, toddlers, infants, newborns being sexually abused, being raped, children who are communicating with predators and sharing of themselves, but also a lot of content created by people who are raping children and sharing it online.
So each dot represents someone who is trading in child pornography as we sit here talking about this.
It's actually worse than that, Chris, because sometimes those dots overlap each other. And then there might be multiple offenders behind those dots.
And what's the difference between the blue dots and the red dots? Is one receiving, one sending?
No, the dots represent different networks that we're tracking
Different
individually.
networks.
That's right.
So explain that as much as you can.
Yeah. So we are tracking in a multitude of networks individuals that are sharing this material across the internet. I'm not even talking the dark web. I'm talking the surface web where they're trading this material. And those dots represent the different networks where we're tracking them in real time.
We see Europe, which is 5, 6, 7 hours ahead of us, depending on where in Europe.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of this activity going on. So that puts us close to the dinner hour in Europe.
Yeah.
Is that significant?
If you think about it, during most of the daylight hours, people are at work, if they work. And so then they're more apt not to do nefarious material while they're working for fear of being caught and things like that. But when they get home in the evenings and there is sanctity and safety, what they believe to be their own home, then they go online. And so Europe, which is now getting into the evening hours, is getting quite full of active users. You can see the East Coast and the West Coast of the United States, not so much yet because it's still early in the morning. I will tell you, if we let this run for about an hour, most of Europe is completely covered with dots, and every major city center of the world is too.
What does that say to you? We see dots. Is this hundreds of cases, thousands of cases,
This is millions of cases.
millions of
We
cases?
are tracked.
Right now,
Yes.
millions of cases of child pornography being traded.
So since I hit start on the map, we're seeing what our systems are picking up live each second. But we've been tracking material for the last 20 years. So we've been tracking hundreds of millions of IP addresses over the course of decades now. And so you're talking about millions and millions of offenders. Why the discrepancy in the numbers? Individuals can change their IP addresses, things are dynamic, but we're tracking them as they go. And then we're providing that information to law enforcement saying, this offender in your area of responsibility or AOR has this material at this time. Go get them.
I've been investigating predators going after our children for more than 20 years. But did you know there are also predators who may be going after your own home, your biggest investment? Just think about this. When was the last time you checked your home title? That's the legal record proving that you own your home. If the answer is never, then this is for you. Scammers are stealing titles and your equity is the target. It happens all the time. Criminals forge your signature on one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee to your county, and just like that, your home title has been transferred out of your name. That's why I have partnered with Home Title Lock, so you can find out today if you're already a victim. It's frightening how frequently this happens. Use my promo code Hansen at HometitleLock.com and you'll get a free title history report. Plus, you'll get a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's a 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud does happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. Go to HometitleLock.com and use promo code Hansen. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code Hansen, Hansen. We have it on our home. You should too. The Child Rescue Coalition knows this is happening right now, Carly.
Yeah.
How do you get that information to law enforcement to try to take action? It would be wonderful if we had a international force who could respond in real time and kick these doors in and drag these guys off to prison or jail or for prosecution. But that's not feasible. How does it work? How do you work with law enforcement?
Yeah. So, as Greg mentioned before, we are showing law enforcement officers that have gotten training to use our system, which training is free, access is free. We are a nonprofit, a 501(c)(3), so that's our entire mission is to provide this technology free of charge to law enforcement that's able to take these leads and make it actionable to make the arrest of the predator. But as Greg mentioned, we show them their area of jurisdiction. So, who, if they are an officer in the state of New York, or maybe they're an officer in Florida, in Palm Beach County, we would show them their view of the criminal leads in their area. And then we prioritize, we rank individuals by who's trading the most amount of content, who has been online for the longest, who we even show indicators that might prove that someone's more likely to be a dangerous offender, such as they're trading images of very young children, or they're trading content material that teaches them how to gain access to children, how to avoid detection from law enforcement. So some of these documents might not even be child sexual abuse material, illegal.
But it's a training manual for those who want to gather this material.
Exactly. It's highly suspicious of if you're trading these known illegal files, every single one of these dots are a felony level file that they're in possession of.
It's so dark and so disturbing in so many ways, but yet these guys must be caught.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We know through our investigations that Virtually every offender caught exploiting children has started with viewing child pornography almost routinely
Mm.
in these cases. And I'm sure you guys, know that too.
There's definitely a massive overlap. So we know that from the best studies out there, that approximately 85% of individuals who possess, distribute, and receive child sexual abuse material, I'm talking about the images and the videos, have been hands-on with a child. It is a shocking number. And so what Child Rescue Coalition is able to do is give law enforcement the tools to get the bad guys, hopefully maybe before they hurt the kids. And the beauty is it's a completely technology case. So when law enforcement brings the case to prosecutors, and I've handled well in excess of 100 cases involving this technology when I was a prosecutor, it is a completely technology case. So I don't have to worry about
The
a
the
child on the stand being
blueprint to the case is right there.
it's all there. And then you don't have a child being re-victimized
Right.
by going through the court process, being interviewed, because we've got all the evidence digitally.
And it's sort of like in our predator stings, the chat is the backbone of the case, right? You have that information because you know the IP address, right?
That's right.
You have the evidence that it's been traded,
That's right.
and you have the crime right there.
Law enforcement has to get a subpoena, a search warrant, knock down the door, and the rest is all theirs.
And when you talked about how do we take on the world problem of this, it's happening all over. Luckily, we've trained investigators in now 106 countries.
106 countries.
That's
Yep,
right.
around the world where they get free access to this technology. And we're working with them to show them the leads in their jurisdiction, as we mentioned. They can start trying to take this huge problem, which is overwhelming. There's so much of this going on, but make it actionable and at least be going after the worst individuals and hopefully even more than that, where we're seeing more and more offenders being investigated for.
Prosecuted.
Yep.
And actual crimes against children being avoided.
That's right. Chris, every single Internet Crimes Against Children task force in America uses our software. And as Carly said, law enforcement in 106 countries around the world. And every single day we hear success stories from law enforcement in Spain, in Germany, in South America, across the United States. Another predator taken down. And unfortunately, we hear that there was a child in that home that was being sexually abused
Mm.
that no one would have known about because it might have been a 3 or a 4-year-old who's being raped by the offender, who was told not to talk, who was taught not to talk, who was taught not to report to law enforcement. And but for our technology helping law enforcement get in the door, that rape would have gone on for years.
How many law enforcement agencies are using this technology now?
Thousands.
Thousands. And you offer this training, you offer the technology free to any law enforcement agency
That's right.
that wants to use it.
We got an email just yesterday from a law enforcement agency in the western part of America that had never heard of us. And they saw one of our many education pieces that we put out. Hey, I heard about you guys. How do we get our officers trained? And immediately our training director was put in touch with them and setting up a training for later this month.
How does it work? And I know there's a certain level of this that's, proprietary, and also you don't want to give away to the bad guys committing these crimes how to avoid it.
I appreciate that.
But
Mm.
you see the dot here. Take us behind the dot. What do you know? What does it tell you? And what actionable information can you give to law enforcement to make a successful case?
Sure. So, as I said earlier, what we're capturing is publicly available information that these offenders are willing to share because of the networks that they're in. So we're capturing information that they themselves are offering. In other words, what's their IP address? What files do they actually have? The titles of those files. And that in and of itself is enough for law enforcement to start their investigation, go get a subpoena, and then get a search warrant signed by a judge.
So it's child pornography.
Yes, without question.
Because it's the technology picks up on that.
That's right. So we partner with the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. We partner with CADE in the United Kingdom. We're partnering with organizations all over the world to support our efforts because we build the tech that law enforcement then can use.
And how many child pornographers have been arrested so far because of this technology?
So the number that's been reported to us, which I will submit is probably much lower than what it actually is. But what law enforcement has reported back to us is over 16,800 arrests worldwide.
16,800 arrests
But
worldwide.
that's only since we've been counting since 2014. I've been working these cases with this technology since 2009. But since we've been keeping track in 2014, it's over 16,800 arrests. But Chris, the better number is that over 3,500 children have been rescued from homes where those arrests happened who are being sexually abused.
3,500 children
Yes, that's right.
found in homes
Mhm.
where adults were trading child pornography.
Yeah. And the individuals that the officers are getting, sometimes they're first-time offenders, but often they are repeat offenders who maybe were doing something else, got convicted, and now they found a different place to go satisfy themselves with this horrible material. And the officers using our technology are finding them there and then putting them away for good.
What made you, Greg, leave your job as a prosecutor to work with the Child Rescue Coalition?
So I have two answers for you. And the first is this woman right here. So Carly and I have known each other for 15 years. And in 2009, I was asked to become the Internet Crimes Against Children prosecutor. And that task force that I was to run with law enforcement, with forensic investigators, was in her father's shop, in the place where he had brought this technology to Boca Raton. And I happened to be the ICAC prosecutor, the Internet Crimes Against Children prosecutor in Palm Beach County. And so Carly and I met then, and yeah, she was great. You know, her whole family's amazing.
Sure.
And then in 2013, when her father passed away, she and her sister really just, and I think it was wanted to, but needed to complete their father's legacy. And that a big part of that was this program. And so they created the Child Rescue Coalition. But the entire time I was there in the building as a prosecutor with my team, using this technology, working these cases every week, search warrant, search warrant, search warrant. And I can honestly tell you 99 times out of 100, it yielded an arrest, and 100% of the time it yielded a conviction. But I will tell you this, after 2016, I got hired by the United States Attorney's Office to continue my work federally. And then last year, Carly asked me if I would leave the government and come become the CEO for the organization. And I will never forget the conversation we had. I was a state prosecutor getting the pedophiles of Florida. I was a federal prosecutor getting the pedophiles of America.
Human traffickers.
Yes, but Child Rescue Coalition is global. And so now I basically get to be the global prosecutor and help law enforcement and prosecutors and victims and governments everywhere we can to go after these predators and put them away.
16,800 arrests.
And that's low.
Then that's low. And
That's-
how many of those in the United States?
Approximately half.
Half of them.
Yeah. And again, that's just what's reported to us by law enforcement.
And there's no boundaries here. Somebody in Stuttgart could be trading child porn with somebody in San Diego.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's exactly right. And that's part of our message to governments and other nonprofits and entities around the world. These predators don't know boundaries. They don't know a border. They don't know a state border. They don't know a country border. They're in it for themselves. They're in it to acquire the material because they have a sexual drive that neither you or I could really understand. And so we've got to do what we can across borders and across the world to go after them. That's why we do what we do.
Is there a typical guy?
Hmm.
Is there a profile?
I get asked this question all the time. And all I can tell you is the typical offender is male, age 18 to 85. But we are seeing so many more women now, especially those who are live streaming sexual abuse in Southeast Asian countries, using their children, individuals in first world countries paying money to watch these children being sexually abused. And a lot of times it's a mother or an aunt or an older sister. It's easy money for them to make. So we are seeing more women, but in my experience with the cases I've prosecuted, approximately 98% of them were male.
That's astounding. And I've heard about these cases before too. A woman exploiting a child in a live stream video
Yeah.
for purchasers here in the United States.
Yep.
I know what goes on, but it still leaves me speechless sometimes that humans would do this to their own people.
It makes you angry.
It does make me angry.
Yeah,
And it seems like one of, at least I hear you would know even more than I would, but that what we're hearing from law enforcement is that U.S. is one of the major consumers of this.
that's right.
And although these countries, you must think about what extreme poverty and circumstances they would be put in. I mean, but how then a mother, does that to a child or anyone's doing it to it. But the fact that yeah, many Americans are then consuming this material, purchasing it, and being the ones creating the demand for this kind of online abuse is really horrific.
Is there a place in America or overseas that where this is more prevalent than anywhere else? I mean, I know in third world countries, you see, sex tourism and you see underage children being exploited, and we've done stories on that, shocking stories. But is there one area of the country that where this seems to be most prevalent, or is it just everywhere?
No, it's everywhere. I mean, the internet allows the criminal activity to exist everywhere and anywhere, which is why you see a constant and concerted effort of law enforcement around the world to work together to help fight against this. Look, one of the worst cases I ever did as a US attorney was a dark web case that involved multiple countries trying to find offenders who were running one of the worst dark web websites in the history of the world. And as it turns out, 12 of the top 15 guys were here in the United States.
Hmm.
Now, I've done other cases where the worst offenders were in Europe, where they were in Asia. They're everywhere. And they can interact with each other with, again, no border or boundary separating them.
You've been a prosecutor at the state level, at the federal level.
Yeah.
You've grown up with this technology, essentially, or technology like it. Eh, Does it still make you wonder about humanity that people will engage in this sort of activity? I mean, who does this? I know it's, the white male from 1885. I understand that. But it's just what makes men think that this is an okay thing to do?
I don't know, Chris. I don't know. And I don't know that we're ever going to know. And, there have been studies done as to why people do what they do. And at the end of the day, you find outliers that fall outside these studies, and those outliers start becoming more of the majority. I think since we're never going to fully understand the psychosis of the sexual offender to the level where we can stop it at a young age, we got to do two things. One, when we find these perpetrators, we have to arrest them and bring them to justice. But two, I really believe in a Child Rescue Coalition, we really, really make a concerted effort to educate children and parents around the world about the dangers that are coming to their children. And the reason is twofold. We want children to know what those dangers are so they can protect themselves. But also, we want kids to know, look, we don't want you to fall down a bad path. We don't want you to become the offender. And maybe for some of these adults that I put in prison, hundreds of them, maybe if somebody had gotten to them early, maybe if somebody had interacted with them at a level to say, look, this is bad, don't do this, maybe they wouldn't
They
have
wouldn't
done
have
it.
acted out.
Education is key.
Since we began this conversation, what has happened on the map? And this is a lot of time still.
Well, we can't see Europe anymore. That's for sure.
I mean, there are so many dots, so much trading of child pornography, you can't even see Europe,
Yeah.
an entire continent.
I think what's the most important thing about the map is it's every country of the world that has a normal internet connection. Sure, you're going to see some countries in northern and central Africa that don't, but look at South America, look at North America, all of Europe, all of Asia, all of Oceania, South Africa. It's everywhere.
Do we have tough enough sentences on the books
We do here in America.
for people who engage in this kind of
I am
activity?
very proud to say that in America, we have really tough laws. Now, of course, we have 51 governments in our country, so every state and federal is different. But the distribution and receipt of child sexual abuse material federally is a 5-year minimum prison sentence for first-time offenders to a max of 20. If you are producing the material, it's a minimum sentence of 15 years. And some of the offenses that are available are upwards of life. If you travel overseas to go meet a child, you're facing upwards of 30 years or life in prison for your crimes. And we go after that and we get those sentences here in the United States. Unfortunately, a lot of other countries do not meet that caliber.
We're working on an investigation into the gaming platform Roblox, and a lot of the child exploitation we're seeing there involves adults telling children to go exploit their younger siblings and make a video of it. And then they're taking this material and selling it and trading it online. So you've got this environment that's supposed to be safe for kids where they can play a game with their peers. And you've got somebody coming in and offering them currency in the form of what they call Robux to go exploit their younger siblings.
But Chris, it gets much worse than that even because you have groups out there who are specifically designing themselves to take advantage of our children, cause them to inflict harm and fear and pain on their siblings, on their pets. I know you've heard of these groups. 764 is one of them,
Yeah.
and they are trying to get at chaos into our children and literally disrupt our society from within. So our children will grow up with this idea of chaos and menacing behavior and hurtful things that they're going to do to other people and our society, and literally trying to disrupt our society from the inside out.
The 764 thing, and I know we're getting a little bit off topic here. Has this technology detected any activity there?
So I can't go into those details per se, but 764, amongst many other groups that exist around the world.
Because this plays into the whole Roblox investigation and Discord and all these other platforms.
Well, these offenders are everywhere.
Yeah.
If there are kids anywhere online, offenders, whether as individuals or groups, are going to go find them and they're going to exploit where the kids are. Look, you and I are both old enough to remember that when we were kids, we were told, watch out for the guy in the white van.
Mhm.
If you go into an amusement park, be careful, right? Offenders don't need that anymore. They've got our kids online and they can access them whenever they want. That's why we've got to teach them, be careful. If somebody approaches you online and you don't know who they are, ignore them. It doesn't matter how many likes or how many friends or how many followers you have. This is a misnomer that is not being undone with our children. And frankly, parents aren't doing enough to educate their kids. And what I tell parents is, it's not your fault. You didn't grow up with the technology. How could you possibly know what it's like to be a 12-year-old online nowadays? You can't. You got to do the research. You got to do your homework. Go to Child Rescue Coalition's website. Go to Nick Mick's website. Learn tips and tools to talk to your 8-year-old about sexual activity that's occurring. Because if you don't, the internet's going to.
As a parent, I've always said to people, and my kids are in their 30s now, so we're obviously out of the danger zone there, and we never had to deal with things like this. We had World of Warcraft, but I remember in those early days, they're in high school or junior high. I said, "Come on, time for bed," and oh, I can't leave the game. I said, "Well, finish it tomorrow." Because no, the other guys are depending on me. I said, "Well, who are they?" Just some guys, and it struck me then, and there were no incidents, or anything like that, but now it's been ramped up to a whole different level with Roblox and Discord and all these different places. I mean, the 764 thing who's even behind that?
That's a great question. Chris, I want to share something with you. I have seen the worst of humanity in my casework. I have seen newborns, images and videos of newborns being raped. One of my cases, we uncovered an 18-month-old in Boca Raton being sexually exploited and abused by her father. And I was in the hospital with this child.
Mm.
What I have learned and understood about these extremist groups, that scares me. That keeps me up at night because the sexual exploitation is only part of it. It's the fear and the manipulation that they're causing into our children that is so much worse and bringing it to an even greater level that you and I could have never even imagined. Hollywood could never even imagine this. And yet here it is in real life.
From the standpoint of the Child Rescue Coalition, what is the most important thing, Carly, you can tell parents? Obviously, your technology is incredible. It's putting bad guys away. It's rescuing innocent children. But at an organic ground level at home,
Yeah.
what do you tell parents?
I feel like the advice and tips that we try to give to parents evolves all the time because technology is always changing. But really, what kind of stays at the core of
There's some
it,
baseline things, though, right?
yes, I think communication, having that open communication with your kids to be checking in with them. You can't keep tabs on every new game, every new app that they're going to download, meaning a new app gets developed every single day, probably multiple ones every day. But talking to them, what are you using often? What do you use this for? Who do you talk to? Making sure you have those conversations about not talking to people that they don't actually know in real life. As you mentioned, your son playing the game, they feel like they know them because they're playing the game, and that's how a lot of times these predators thrive, is they start to develop and build that friendship, start grooming the child to believe that they have developed a friendship with them before they start taking advantage of them. So really reminding them that what the difference is between knowing someone in real life versus someone you've met on one of these gaming platforms. And then checking in with them, whether or not you're seeing some of the messages that are coming through, that they're not hiding any of the activity on their phone or a tablet or a gaming platform. And also being that safe space for them to turn to. I think it really is every kid is going to come across something that makes them uncomfortable online. Unfortunately, it's just bound to happen. And you really need to be a parent who is going to be understanding, be that person that they can show that this message was sent to them or something was said to them that makes them feel uncomfortable, and that you can tackle it together, whether you're reporting it to law enforcement, you're sending it to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. You're not threatening to take their devices away like the kid's done something wrong. You're being comforting and kind to them in a situation that they need someone to turn to when this happens to them, and just kind of
Because
being
it's
that safe
scary. I
space.
remember years ago, we had a interview with a group of middle school kids early in the predator investigations. I said, "How many of you have been approached online by an adult who made you feel uncomfortable?" Every one of them, a dozen
Yeah,
raised their hands. I said, "How many of you told your parents?" None of them. They're kicking their shoes, they're back and forth. And I said, "Why not?" "We're afraid they're going to take the internet away."
Yep.
right.
And then you look at sextortion, which is another topic we're working on.
Mm.
Good kids are taking their own lives because they can't see past the moment. They can't see necessarily what your organization is doing. They don't realize that NCMEC has a methodology to scrub the internet of any images that you mistakenly put up.
And
They just
isn't
don't
that
see the
shocking though? Like
yeah.
that people don't know the resources that are out there. So, and that's why we appreciate you having us on
Right.
because
Well, I want
we
people to know on two
absolutely.
different levels. I want parents to know, and I want law enforcement to know that they can reach out to
That's
you.
right.
So, for anybody in law enforcement who's watching this or listening to it, how do they get in touch with Child Rescue Coalition?
It's really easy. Just go to our website, childrescuecoalition.org. The contact information is on there, and we will receive that email instantly, and we will then respond to you instantly and set up a training as quickly as possible.
And what can you do for this law enforcement agency?
So we set up trainings. They're approximately a week long, and we train them so by the end, they're already making cases in their investigation. Um, my agents and I, using this technology, would go from, okay, we found an IP address. We were hitting the house with a search warrant 36 hours later. It is
And you
really
could do
easy for
this
them to,
all day, every day.
if I had the agents and we had the manpower. Chris, this is something that we've been talking about for years. The Internet Crimes Against Children task forces, they are spread so thin right now. They are responding to cyber tips. They are doing proactive investigations. They need more resources. They need more resources from the state, from the federal government to provide them the tools, the time, and the manpower to go and do these investigations. Those dots are up on the board because we don't have enough law enforcement in this fight. We need 10 times what we have if we're going to make a real dent in the world. The police officers I work with, it's a lot. It's a lot for them every single day. But they're so good at what they do and they're so trained at what they do. They're very proficient at what they do. They know the rules of evidence. They know the rules of law. And they're going to make sure they do it right. So that's why they need as much support as they can get.
It's just overwhelming to
Yeah.
me that each one of those dots shows the re-victimization of a child in one form or another
And not just one
in lifetime.
victimization. Thousands and thousands. The average offender I prosecuted had well over 10,000 images and videos of CSAM.
10,000?
Yeah, but that's a small number generally. I mean, we're usually talking millions, millions. Our system, we're talking terabytes of data, of images and videos of child sexual abuse, some of which goes back decades. So one of the things we're trying to do with Child Rescue Coalition is because we know all this information about what these files are, we are working with some of these actual victims and their representatives to help them get identified so they can actually have a voice in court, so they can have a victim impact statement in court. And so law enforcement and prosecutors can reach out to the National Center of Missing Exploited Children, figure out who wants to be contacted in each of these cases, and even help them seek restitution.
When we talk about going after the worst of the worst offenders, here in the US, and we talk about law enforcement being overwhelmed. Really, we would love to see more officers with this really being the focus, the priority of the nation. It seems like
But if
parents
I were a
want it.
police chief or a sheriff, I would say, okay, look, you 20, that's all you're going to do
Yeah.
every day. And when you get burned out, we'll put you someplace else and we'll get another 20 in there.
Chris, not for nothing, but if we were to zoom in on Florida, I can't do it right now, but if we
Right.
were to, you would wonder why maybe we don't see so many dots in Florida. And I will tell you that my agents in Palm Beach County, the agents in Broward and Miami and Orlando and Tampa and Jacksonville and Tallahassee across the state who've been using our technology for 15 years, they got a
And
lot
so you're saying that you see less of the trade in Florida because of all the prosecutions and aggressive
because we're
investigations.
getting them. Yep.
And a lot of times we hear a lot of the cases in the news and they'll say, it seems like Florida, a lot of activity is occurring. And it's really the opposite. I mean, a lot of activity is occurring, but there's a lot of law enforcement being effective and going after them and targeting. So you do hear about it more in the news in Florida than you do other cases.
Well, we also have sheriffs in Florida who, are good at going after these guys, Grady Judd, Billy Woods, and so many others across the state. I mean, we do stings with these sheriffs and we know what they do because we're part of it.
Yeah.
And they don't play around on there. And at least in Florida, you see some sentences that are pretty hefty.
That's right. That's right.
In
Yeah.
some of our jurisdictions, it's a lot of plea bargaining. Now, if child porn's involved, they're going to prison, you know, and so at least you're seeing pretty stern sentences there. What's the financial gain for these pornographers? I mean, is this a billion-dollar industry? Are they just trading this for their own sick satisfaction? There's got to be a financial component to it, right?
I wish I could say there was, Chris. I told you about that dark web case
Yeah.
that I did. One of my last ones. It was called Operation Grayskull, an incredible 3-year-long operation. They did not do this for money at all. And there were tens of thousands of them in this network. They did it just because it's what they wanted. Now,
Ugh.
that's not to say there isn't.
I'm not saying that it'd be okay or any better if
No.
there's a financial component to it, but I'm shocked that there's not.
The only time we see financial gain, for the most part, in our world of child sexual abuse material is when you're talking about the live streaming
Right.
and individuals are actually receiving money for the actual production of this rape in real time. That's when you see money. But you're talking $50, $25 for a 10-minute viewing of watching a child being
So
raped.
people are doing this for the material,
Yes,
for the sick satisfaction it brings them.
that's right.
We've said it's almost like trading baseball cards in a way where predators are online, really just trading collections of something that they've become sickly fascinated with and trading this with people all around the world with their own community of other like-minded predators that they've met online.
And it goes even deeper too, because sometimes these predators find or want to find these children in real life.
Mm.
Some of the victims are so heavily traded for decades now, and they're adults,
So they become
obsessed.
obsessed with an individual child.
Yeah.
And how often do they find this actual child?
Thankfully, it doesn't happen that often, but there are victims out there who are identified, who have been given pseudonyms to protect their identity and have had to change their pseudonym because even that their real identity was identified through their pseudonym.
What do you say, Greg, to the people representing the dots around the world trading child porn?
Law enforcement's coming for you. Law enforcement's coming for you. And our technology gives them that tool. And they're going to arrest them. I arrested 350 predators across South Florida over 15 years of doing this work. And if I had more law enforcement, I could have done more. If there were more prosecutors doing this work, we could do more. And I have no doubt I have no doubt that across the world, we're going to start to see a change. Countries around the world, including the United States, are putting money and manpower behind this effort because they know we can stop them, because they know one thing about this violation. You stop one predator and you save dozens or hundreds of children's lives.
Will I mean, given the ubiquitous nature of the internet and the drive that some of these guys have, do we ever put an end to this?
Mm. I think we're kidding ourselves if we ever put an end to it. Child sexual abuse has been going on for thousands of years. This is not a new thing. And it's never going to end because we're never going to be able to find every single one of them. But if we stop one, then we save a child's life. And that's our goal, one at a time.
And I like to think too, even if in certain countries they might not have strict penalties where they necessarily go to jail for years upon years, but at least they're on a sex offender registry list. At least they're not likely to be hired as a teacher, a baseball coach,
You know
scout
where they
leader.
are. I mean, people see the cases that we do in our takedown stings all the time, and sometimes they get probation, and people become angry about it. And I agree, but at least we know where they are.
That's right.
Exactly.
At least they're held accountable, and should they offend again, then they are going to prison.
Yeah.
Right.
The sex offender registry is a massive
Yeah.
asset across the United States. The US Marshals sex offender units across the country work tirelessly. Palm Beach County, we have 4 detectives and they monitor almost 1,000 sex
Wow.
offenders. And they know where all of them are and they are tracking all of them.
It is shocking that this much activity is going on in this area. We thank you for being involved in this organization, the Child Rescue Coalition, this technology. People are going to see this and hear this. They're going to want to help and be a part of it. Carly, for non law enforcement people, what can they do to aid this cause?
Yeah. Well, we definitely appreciate the support. We couldn't do any of this really without the community, donors, and people just believing in this technology and the work that we do. So, as Greg mentioned before, we have information on our website about law enforcement users, but also just the regular donor or citizen who wants to get involved and wants to learn more. So, go to childrescuecoalition.org. You can sign up to be on our newsletter. Follow us on our social media, which we talk about cases that we've worked on, daily information about new tips, tips for parents, how to keep their kids safe. And really, how we're able to keep this technology free to law enforcement is by the generous funding of supporters. So
Yeah,
people,
we'll put all that in the story notes for this particular episode
great.
so people will be able to find it. Greg, parting thoughts, things you want law enforcement to know about this technology and how it can help them track down these predators.
So our technology is free, right? You don't have to expend any resources to use it. We will train you and we will make sure that you're using it right. We'll support you forever as long as you're using the technology. But the beauty of it is, in any internet investigation you're doing with children, you can cross reference it against our technology and see what other offenders are doing or what your offender is doing in other areas of the internet. And so it helps you build a more robust investigation. As a prosecutor, when I get a case, I want to know everything about my offender. I don't want to learn after the arrest. I want to know before if I can. And our technology helps you do that. We've heard countless stories from law enforcement officers saying, hey, I got this cyber tip, and then I learned about your technology. Well, guess what? Now, the National Center of Missing Exploited Children is utilizing our technology as well to help law enforcement learn more about their offenders so that we can give law enforcement the most robust and thorough tool that they can to go after these predators.
Shining the light of technology on a very serious problem. Thank you, Carly. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
If you want to get involved with the Child Rescue Coalition, the information is in our story notes here. If you are in law enforcement, I've seen a lot of technology over the years. I've worked with a lot of guys in ICAC, and I've helped spread the word between sheriff's offices who are doing these things in Polk County, Florida, Genesee County, Michigan. Everybody wants to do it, but doing it is scary. It's not that scary if you seek the help of a professional group like the Child Rescue Coalition. So reach out today, do it. Let's get it done. Let's fight this insidious crime. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next week. In the meantime, I'll be watching and listening.